silly sheep game. There's no reason for me to waste any time mindlessly talking about the video that you clicked on when you saw the thumbnail and read the title. So I'm just gonna get started. A real quick like and subscribe so I can get a dopamine release when I see the number go up. The world of Cult of the Lamb actually isn't really well known about. We only know that there is a large land continent where the story starts. On this continent there were many gods and goddesses, hundreds of them, gods for everything. All are able to become gods with the power of their crowns that gave them their abilities. Many remains of these gods can still be found, like their tears and weapons that they owned. There's also a portion of land that got split off by a godly axe, which is important later. These gods over time started to disappear, however. Some stepped down from the throne, others were killed, and some just passed away, like Selim III. A good chunk of them were lost in favor of new ones, immediately replacing them. Everyone was in a scramble to get their hands on a crown any way possible. The most important are the 5 siblings that get their hands on evil crowns. Leslie the Bush received the crown of chaos, Hecate the Toad received the crown of famine, Kalmar the Shark received the crown of plague, Shamora the Spider received the crown of war, and Nurinder the Cat got the crown of death. They were able to maintain their power far better than the other gods, and may have even assisted in the downfall of the other ones. All we know is that these 5 were able to become the only remaining gods of the island that remained. With all this power to cause chaos, they didn't. What they did is that they promised that if people worshipped them, then they could create the opposite of what their power was. And that's what happened. They named their religion, the place where they're worshipped, the Old Faith, and still made measures to make sure a god dispute would never happen again. Raids started happening on those who refused to convert. Those who didn't convert to the Old Faith were destroyed. The 5 new bishops had achieved stability at least. Some of the first 3 gods born or unhatched are still very much alive to this day, just no longer gods. There's Clonic, dealer of tarot cards. These cards tell fortunes and futures when drawn from the deck. There's Kudai, keeper of weapons and curses. Mostly godly ones. Only deals with those worthy, however, so probably people like Harold Harry Jackson would receive them. Lastly is Chimak. She has gone absolutely insane and creates relics. Very powerful things, like teeth and crocs. She creates them herself, of course. You can also find Harrow, an owl who gave up on his role of god of the hunt. He now acts as a messenger. Some of those who denied the Old Faith were able to distance themselves pretty far from the mainlands. Mainly Sozo and his mushroom followers, Medius and his followers, and the Lighthouse Cult. Yes, I'm being serious if you haven't seen them. Nurinder was the least popular god. His worshippers were few, but there's a pretty good reason why. Nurinder's promises were not as fulfilling as his siblings. The others were able to provide a large amount of benefits to their followers. Example, Hecate, god of famine, could avert conditions leading to famines. She could bless rain, increase harvest, and maybe even summon Spaghetti Donut. Nurinder didn't bring anything promising. He didn't know how to bring the opposite of death and what could possibly be the most popular bishop's power, life. Shamura was the eldest and wisest sibling. They decided to help Nurinder's use of powers, and it ended up working too well. Things were going amazing for Nurinder. He could grant immortality and bring the dead back to life. Turns out that worshipping the gods that help you avoid death aren't as good as the god that straight up lets you die as much as you want without a punishment. As his follower count increased, mainly ones converted from the other 4 bishops, he became more and more manipulative and selfish. The other siblings came to believe that Nurinder became a threat to their powers as well as the Old Faith itself. It'd be like if the president took all the power from the other branches. The siblings eventually decided the best course of action was to jail Nurinder until 1,000 years have passed or whenever they feel like it. Unsurprisingly, Nurinder doesn't really want to have that happen to him and starts fighting his siblings, including the very one that gave him his knowledge of his newfound power. It was a fierce, tragic, and bloody battle, but the 4 siblings were able to chain up Nurinder in his realm of the afterlife, with the chains being tied to their lives, physically. Shimura also asked, or more forced, a merchant named Forneus to give up her sons, Aim and Bao, who were worshippers of Nurinder, to be his guardian and his realm, I guess. I don't really know what to call it, like the afterlife? The 4 siblings had sustained terrible injuries from the fight. Leslie's eyes were ripped off, Hecate's throat was slipped, Kalmar's ears were torn off, and Shimura's brain sustained injury. Even damaged, Nurinder didn't seem like a threat, and peace was restored in the lands of the Old Faith for a bit. Unless you aren't a follower of the Old Faith and your village would be burnt. Never mind about Nurinder not being a threat, by the way, because now people are trying to get him back. Luckily for the bishops, they all failed. The farthest anyone got was Ratau, but even he couldn't keep his cult in order. However, a new tarot card got drawn, which was predicting the downfall of the Old Faith. The tarot card revealed that a lamb would help Nurinder defeat the bishops and crusade the lands of the Old Faith. The bishops made an executive order to extinct the lamb species. Every single one. Mass genocide. Reminds me of someone. And so that's what happened. All of the lambs were executed. Well, almost all of them. The bishops attended the execution of the final lamb. All seeming very relieved that they were able to stop the tarot card's prediction, and the lamb was beheaded. But you know what this game is, the prophecy was going to be fulfilled. The lamb awoke in Nurinder's tomb and talks to him. Nurinder, who over time has been named the One Who Waits, offers up a sweet deal to the lamb. They can be brought back to life, but must start a cult in Nurinder's name, crusade the lands of the Old Faith, all with the power of the Red Crown. The lamb, without hesitation, accepts and starts immediately going ham on the people who hadn't left his execution. One of the only surviving cult starters, now living in an old shack, who had just noticed, or a Tau, noticed what the lamb was doing and was eager to guide him. The lamb is eventually able to escape the Old Faith and start a cult with a follower who was about to be executed, but they rescued him. It's kind of up to the player how they build their cult, how happy everyone is, and that sort of stuff. The lamb also interacts with the odd cults around, but who cares, bro? I don't think any of you want me to talk about how the lamb met Plimbo's fish. What is important, though, is that the lamb is able to crusade all the way to the bishop's lairs, getting much farther than anyone like Ratau did. The bishops, of course, do that threatening monologue, but the lamb kills them, freeing the locks of Nurinder's chains. The lamb gets in a cycle of crusading, returning to the cult even if they die, because Nurinder just resurrects them, managing the cult and repeating. The lamb keeps advancing and defeating the bishops while they fight back against them, sending fighters and torturing your own cultists in an attempt to stop you from advancing. But the lamb is better, killing all the bishops and releasing the chains of the One Who Waits. So think it canonically takes place over 100 years, because you'll go through many generations of cultists unless they just live for like a month and a half. Interesting things happen along the way too. The lamb gambles, the crown starts talking about sins after becoming a snake. They receive new tarot cards. The lamb pulls a goat who has a crown just like theirs from the mirror dimension that helps the lamb. And Quinn Ji Hong gets summoned and starts preaching that pufferfish. Oh wait, wrong video. But the lamb eventually gets their followers to take them beyond, to the lair of the One Who Waits. I'm so good at recording myself. To the lair of the One Who Waits as the job's been done. Nurinder tells the lamb to hand over the crown to his rightful owner and die. The lamb rejects this, keeping the crown and making Nurinder quite upset. He orders Aim and Bao to attack the lamb for the crown, but the lamb takes them down no problem. So Nurinder takes things to his own hands and dies, before unleashing his eldritch horror form and crucifying the lamb's following. All the bishops had eldritch horror forms. I just didn't talk about it because... But the 5th bishop falls just like every other did, putting Nurinder into a form just like the lamb's followers. The followers rejoice, and the one who waits is immediately indoctrinated into the cult and forced to marry the lamb. Is canon? I don't care. After Nurinder is defeated, a mystical seller appears that will buy god tears from the lamb in exchange for cool stuff. You can also name it whatever you want. Please name it Huberto every time. But more importantly, the other 4 bishops are ready for a rematch against the lamb, and the same thing happens as last time. Instead of exploding into flesh, they become followers too, who surrender to become part of the cult. Cool. The lamb also is able to resurrect the guardians of the one who rates, aim and bound, and reunite them with their mother. They also turn the 4 bishops, not Nurinder, and take them back to their temple as demons one last time to see the lands that they once ruled over. And that's about it. The game has only existed for a few years. The lore isn't that fleshed out. A lot of it is just like side trivia that's not too important. The developers also seem too busy hosting furry weddings, and they even admit that they're starting their own cult instead of working on their game. And again, while editing this video, a full paid DLC was teased. I would like to think there will be a sequel sometime, but that's all I have to say right now. Like and subscribe while I change your form into poop follower.